Hello again, thank you. You've already heard me today. It's Nicola Butler, again, Hackney Play Association and Play England. And so today, this afternoon, I actually want to start by hearing from you. So this little presentation is about risk and risk-benefit assessment and how we manage risk in play. And so what I want you to do to start with is to think about your attitude to risk. Do you feel that you're a risk taker? Would you like to jump out of a plane in a parachute? Or perhaps you can't wait to get to the nearest fun fair. Have a little think about what types of risks you would take, and I'd like you to speak to the person sitting next to you for a couple of minutes and tell them a little bit about what your attitude towards risk is. Are you a risk taker? On you go.
Takže prostor pro vaše vzájemné diskuze. Few minutes. Yeah, okay. 2 minutes. Yeah. Okay.
Lots and lots of reasons why we all take risks, and we all take different sorts of risks every day. All of us in this room take risks. We leave the house, we cross the road. That's pretty dangerous. We don't necessarily all want to jump out of a plane, but there are all kinds of risks that we take. We tell somebody that we love them for the first time, and we don't know what the reaction will be. So many different types of risks that we take, and many different types of risks that children also want to take, because this is an important part of their play and how they learn. And what we've heard as well is lots of different benefits. Through taking risks, we learn to overcome our fears, we learn new skills, we get adrenaline, exhilaration, and the satisfaction of achieving something that maybe we thought that we couldn't do. So I've been asked today to say a little bit about adventure playgrounds and also about play streets, because that's what my organisation in the UK works on. We run 3 adventure playgrounds. The main reason they're different from playgrounds in parks is that they're run by what we call professional play workers. These are members of staff whose job is just to support children's play. This is a profession that developed first, I think, in the UK, and adventure playgrounds are very special places where children's play and enjoyment is the main aim of the facility. We try to be child-led, to go with what the children want to do, so we might provide some activities, but if the children don't want to do the activities, that's up to them. So maybe we put out glitter and they make paintings, or maybe they throw the glitter in the fire. Who knows? It's led by them. Adventure playgrounds are aimed more at older children and young people. So the core age range starts at age 6 and goes up from there. They are usually open after school and during school holidays, so it's somewhere for children to go when they're out of school. And one of the key things is that children can come and go as they please. It's their choice. It's not childcare. They don't have to stay until mum or dad comes back. They can come and go as they please. So what are the main risks that we have to manage with adventure playgrounds? The most obvious one is that we build most of the structures ourselves, or we build the structures with the children. And in the UK, adventure playgrounds are actually exempt from European industry standards for play equipment. So really, the only way that we can manage that is through risk-benefit assessment. Because we also have staff there, we do a lot of work with children that would be considered quite risky. So we use tools. We might use saws or hammers, or possibly even power tools. One of the most risky things we do, I think, is probably allowing children to use knives to do things like whittling and to do work with wood. We use a lot of what we call loose parts. These are things that can be moved. So Helena mentioned ropes earlier. So anything that the children can move or manipulate themselves, we would call a loose part, and we have to manage that risk as well, because you can't predict how children are going to use these objects. Most adventure playgrounds will also have some kind of fire. Maybe they cook on the fire. They'll also have some kind of water play. And most will allow some kind of rough and tumble play, what you might call play fighting. So it's a very fast-changing and dynamic environment in which to manage risk. Play streets, we also support. Play streets are different from adventure playgrounds. It's in the street. And usually these are run by parents and residents and volunteers. And so in the UK, residents are allowed to close the road for a short period of time for children to play. So often this might be on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon, once per month, and the road is closed. And it's amazing, when you take the traffic away, then the children come out to play. And they bring, you don't have to provide play equipment, they bring things out from their home for them to play. And there's a very nice dynamic, the way children move between the home and the street and back again during street play sessions. The main risks that we have to manage in play streets, the number one is traffic. That's a big one. And so how we manage that is through stewarding of the street. So we put a lot of effort into how we steward the street to make sure that the traffic doesn't come through, and that when it does come through, it comes through very slowly. Sometimes residents will say to me, well, I don't want this play street because what if the children damage my car? And I try not to say, well, sometimes I do say, well, I'm more worried that your car will damage the children. But these are different perspectives, and this is one of the challenges with play streets. But the most common accident on the play streets and in the adventure playgrounds is not falling off the top of a structure or even being hit by a car. The most common accident is slips and trips, which we all do all the time when we're not paying attention. We manage risk in both adventure playgrounds and in street play with a common approach. We've heard a bit already about risk-benefit assessment, and I suppose my experience of it is that the key aspects, I would say, there needs to be leadership, that this is the approach that the organization is going to take, and a clear vision. Because if you go into a school and you want to have this approach, it is never going to work if the head teacher doesn't agree. So it requires leadership. It also requires training so that everybody understands and everybody is on board and knows how to do this. We usually carry out a written risk-benefit assessment for the predictable items, so the big play structures. But there are also unpredictable items, so we have to train our staff how to manage that, and we call that dynamic risk-benefit assessment, where the staff are trained to make professional judgments as they go along about the benefits and risks of an activity. We've got a lot of people in the room who already know a lot about how to manage risk, and we've had some really high-quality presentations this morning, but I suppose my key points on how you do a risk-benefit assessment. The first question you're asking is, who might be harmed and how? And often it's not just the children, it's the adults too. So first tip is don't forget the adults, because my experience is that the adults are actually very clumsy and fall off the equipment far more often than the children do, particularly if they're showing off to their child. So you're looking at who might be harmed and how. But the next step is to consider the benefits, because yes, somebody might have a graze or a bruise, but they might also be getting huge enjoyment out of what they're doing, or they might be learning, or they might be so absorbed in what they're doing that everything else has gone away. And fun and enjoyment is a good enough reason. A child doesn't have to be learning or engaged in positive activity. Just being and just enjoying is a good enough reason. One of the key points to consider is the severity of a likely accident, but also the likelihood of an accident. So by severity, I mean what we are concerned about is we're concerned about preventing accidents that result in serious injury or death. We're not really concerned about minor accidents, slips, trips, bruises. We're not even really concerned about broken legs and broken arms. These occur in the course of a normal childhood. What we're concerned about is, as Helena said, the head traps and anything that might result in serious permanent injury or death. But we also have to weigh up what the likelihood of that is, because often people speculate, people have their own fears, and they say this can happen and that could happen, and a child could drown in an inch of water, and we have to ask, how likely is that? How likely is it that a child would drown in a small amount of water? And if we think it is likely, even then, what can we do about it? Maybe there's a solution, maybe we can supervise that. So control measures, what we do about it, these are also key. And so in an adventure playground, it could be supervision. Usually it's some kind of adaptation or modification. And when we're making these adaptations and modifications, what we're trying to do is we're trying to keep what makes it fun, but to stop the risk of serious harm. So maybe we can do that by moving the hazard, or maybe we can do it by adapting, maybe to a lower level or to a different place. It doesn't necessarily mean stopping the activity or taking it away. But ultimately we have to, and then we have to weigh up what are the risks and what are the benefits, and do the benefits outweigh the risks? And on that basis, we make our professional judgment. When I'm working at the adventure playground, questions that I like to ask my staff, I like to walk around, and if I see a child doing something that I think is very risky, I like to ask the staff member to talk me through it. What do you think's going on here? Do you think this child is able to do that? So, you know, and just getting people to talk it through is part of that process of dynamic risk-benefit assessment. Sometimes I ask my staff, how does that make you feel when this child does that? Because we all have different things that upset us and different things that make us nervous. And my experience working in risk management is that everybody's trigger is different. For some people, it's ropes and nets make them nervous. Other people, it might be height, it might be tools, and people, you bring all of your own personal experiences with you to that judgment and that assessment. So it's very important to discuss with other people and to get different perspectives. So that's a brief summary of how we manage risk in play in two different types of setting, adventure playgrounds and play streets. I don't know if we have time now. I have a little movie about the adventure playground where I work to maybe show you some of to give you an idea. So.
Welcome to Hackney Play Association. Formative Road. Capture Car. Pearson Street.
This is why I go here, because it's fun. And at home it's a bit boring because I just watch telly. What is that? So fun, and my friends come out every day and I can play with
My favourite thing to do here, I don't really have a favourite thing because everything is amazing.
because you get to experience different ways to like play.
This is a place where you have to take things into your own responsibilities. Because your mother doesn't work here, you should learn to do things for yourself.
I like coming here because it's fun and it has lots of things to do like art and football, like fun things. And they do a lot of activities.